Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to From the Nosebleeds. I'm Joey Gunnar, joined today by Jake Shapiro. Jake, how you feeling this morning?
Oh, I am good. Maybe not as good as Nolan Arenado, who finally forced his way out of a second city, but I am pretty good.
Yeah, coming back to the West. Unfortunately, not coming back to Denver, as many people here would probably love to see. But
unfortunately, I don't know that he's welcome back.
You don't think so? You don't think that he would be welcomed back with open arms if he came back here?
To lose 100 games? No, I don't think that anyone would care.
Well, I mean, that could be said about any player. I don't think any singular player is going to change that. The Rockies.
Nolan Arenado would have.
Yeah. I mean, it would have changed something, but now, we're at a point right now where it's just like, give him a farewell tour, something like that. I mean, we'd love to see it. Maybe, at least I would. I don't know. I can't speak for you or anybody else. Maybe I'm the Lone Ranger on this one.
I love Nolan. Nolan's important to the Rockies. Nolan should go into the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. And yesterday's trade, to me, means that he will likely go into the Hall of Fame as a Rocky. So at some point, they're going to have to figure out that relationship. But I still think that a lot of people in Denver are sour about the way things happened, even if everything Nolan Arenado did was right and correct, which I still believe. I think Dick Monfort was at fault about all of it, but still, people get really sensitive when they ask out of your city for a trade, and that tends to stain their career.
Yeah, that same exact thing could be said about Carmelo Anthony. I mean,
no, it can't.
Yeah, it can.
He's not welcome back. He's not.
Well, no, not the welcoming back. Carmelo wouldn't be welcomed back the same way. I don't think Arenado would. But yeah, the same kind of baseline, forcing your way out of the city, definitely stains it a little bit. But let's talk about what's been the headline all week. Bills coming to town this Saturday. The Broncos are playing the Bills, 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, a rematch of last year's wild card game. There are so many different facets of each team's game that need to be taken into account leading up to this big, huge matchup. Divisional round, first time the Broncos have been here in 10 years. Excitement in this town is at an all-time high, and people want to know what the Broncos can do to succeed. And I think that there's one big thing that the Broncos will have to key in on to find success in the game, and that's running the football. The Bills are a bottom 5 run defense, and they're overall not a great defense, but keeping the ball on the ground seems like not only the safe and smart play, but the play that wins the Broncos the game in the long run. Long drives, extended plays, and keeping the ball moving. The run game will have to be a huge part of this Broncos offense's game plan coming into Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think the recipe for the Broncos succeeding in this game is very similar to the way they beat the Raiders the second time around, which was basically string out the time of possession, give that offense as few chances to upset them as possible. In this case, it's give Josh Allen as few chances with the football as possible, but more importantly, maybe James Cook, because the Bills, even though Josh Allen is very scary and Broncos fans maybe still wish they had Josh Allen, the Bills have the number 1 rush offense in the NFL. And I don't know if people realize this, but they were going up against the number 1 rush defense in the NFL in Jacksonville, and they were only held to 94 yards on the ground in that game this weekend. Who's the number 2 rush defense in the NFL? It's your Denver Broncos. So can the Denver Broncos do what the Jacksonville Jaguars just did and stifle the Bills? Meanwhile, Joey, it still wasn't enough. That's the scary part, is the Jags were playing at home. They're the hottest team in the NFL. Their quarterback's playing awesome. They did the thing that they needed to do to beat the Bills, and it still wasn't enough. Now, Trevor Lawrence had a couple back-breaking plays in that game, so you just got to hope that Bo Nix doesn't. But they gave you the recipe. Now you just have to execute.
Yeah, that game against Jacksonville this past weekend, it felt a lot like whoever had the ball last was going to win the game. And that was almost the case. I mean, Jacksonville technically basically had the last offensive drive. The Bills, of course, ended up kneeling the ball out. So they technically, I guess, had the last offensive drive. But that was a shootout that you expected. You know, the Bills, you get into a shootout with them, they're likely going to win it. That's one thing that the Broncos cannot afford. Keep your offense on the field and let your defense get some stops early in the game. Force them to make mistakes, which don't happen often for Josh Allen. Only 10 interceptions on the season, I believe. The Broncos, on the other hand, they need to do the same thing. No mental errors. You have to play your best football. And it feels hard to say, but this game will be Bo Nix's early legacy. Like, this game will prove what Bo Nix is. If he goes out there and he throws for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, then we know that Bo Nix could be a future MVP. He could be a Hall of Famer. But if he goes out and lays an egg, I mean, we're seeing maybe what could be Bo Nix at his peak. So that's why don't force him to show that right away. Keep the ball on the ground. Let him get the plays that he knows, you know, force turnovers and stops on the defense and just keep that ball chugging. It feels like a simple kind of game plan should be instilled into this game.
Yeah, you know, there's the stats about Bo Nix and his amount of wins for the first 2 years and what he's done so far in his career, which is actually at a Hall of Fame pace, which is kind of crazy to think about. Because I would say most people believe Bo Nix is being carried on this team by the defense. And I think that maybe not legacy is the right word, but the narrative around Bo Nix is that he's being carried. And if Bo Nix is to flip that narrative in this game, I think it would be a big deal for him to come out as, you know, one of the big time quarterbacks in the league, defeating Josh Allen. And then all of a sudden you're in the Allen conversation, the Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, you know, Burrow conversation of the AFC quarterbacks that Nix, frankly, hasn't belonged in yet, right? He hasn't proven it, not to that level, you know, even though he's been really solid. So, you know, you have to have that deep playoff run to really get into some of those conversations. So I'm not surprised. I mean, there was that little moment where Bo was flirting with being an MVP candidate this year. And I know Drake May hasn't proven it yet in the playoffs either, but Drake May made it undeniable in the regular season where Bo Nix left the door open, right? I mean, Drake May was captivating with his play. Bo Nix is not captivating with his play. He's solid. He gets the job done. But there's something to be said for the guy who always gets the job done. And so far to this point in his NFL career, he's almost always gotten the job done. So the question is against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who do not turn over the football, as you pointed out, and continue to just run the ball and make it very hard and limit your opportunities. Can you do the exact same thing back to them and out execute a team who has far more playoff experience than you? Sean Payton says playoff experience is hooey. I don't necessarily agree, but what I do believe is that playoff experience is more important from your coaching staff than from your players. And the Broncos coaching staff does have quite a bit of playoff experience, obviously, with Sean Payton having won a Super Bowl. So I don't think the playoff experience thing is going to be that big of a deal. I also don't know that home field advantage is going to be that big of a deal, given the Broncos, you know, Bills just won in Jacksonville. Like, they just did it on the road. And I know Jacksonville's nowhere near as tough of an environment as Denver, but I think that monkey's off their back now, right? It's not that big of a deal. So you're playing a game that I think Vegas is correctly said is basically a pick 'em. Now Vegas has moved that line and said the Bills are a favorite by 1.5 points. But in my mind, this is basically a pick 'em game with two teams that are going to run a similar game plan. And it's going to come down to whether the Broncos defense can force a turnover off of a team who does not turn over the ball. And I think that might decide the game.
And you know what, as you're saying that, you're saying your question, can the Broncos, you know, use that same formula? They can't. I haven't seen it so far this season. Have you seen a game this season where you look at the Broncos keeping the ball on the ground and long extended drives, RJ Harvey being a true workhorse back? Have you seen a game where that's been like super successful to a level where it compares to the Bills or will keep you in a game against the Bills?
You say RJ Harvey, but I have seen this recipe. The problem is it's with J.K. Dobbins, who is not going to play in this game. So the Broncos have shown that they can do this, just not with their current running back. And I don't know if it's because of his youth or because of the lack of experience or the lack of trying. I think they have tried to do this, But yeah, man, I don't know that they're coming back from down 10, down 14, down even maybe a touchdown against this team. It's a scary proposition to be down, multiple scores against this team. And it's a place where the Broncos have lived. A large part of this season is coming from behind in these games. And to me, you're not coming back in this game unless Josh Allen makes a mistake. And Josh Allen makes very few mistakes. So I tend to agree with you, Joey. I don't know that they're going to be able to execute the recipe that is needed to beat the Buffalo Bills.
And I'm just like, I'm looking right now through the Bills so far this season. When teams hold them, when teams don't have to score as much, the Bills aren't winning. I mean, the Texans beat them, putting up 23 points. The Eagles beat them, putting up 13 points. The Patriots beat them, putting up 23 points. So it's like you're watching teams who are showing a path of success where they don't have to put up as many points. It's just stopping that high octane Buffalo offense from getting hot. I mean, you look at the games they've won: 41-40 against the Ravens, 31-21 against the Dolphins, 40-9 against the Panthers. They put up 40, 44-32 against the Buccaneers. So when you allow them to put together multiple drives and score over and over and over, you're never going to be able to beat the Bills. They just, every time you think that you can put up a score, they're going to put one right back at you. And that's why the Bills are such a great team when it's like, who gets the ball last? If Josh Allen has the ball in his hands with a minute left, the game isn't over. They almost won against Kansas City a couple years back with that same exact thing when he scores with 10 seconds and then Patrick Mahomes does what Patrick Mahomes does best and gets them down the field. So the Bills are just, I mean, we are looking at, I gotta be honest, the worst case scenario out of that wild card weekend coming to Denver. This is frightening. I can't lie to anybody here. If I was saying I'm secure with the Broncos playing the Bills, I feel good about this game, I would be lying to you. This is going to be an incredibly tough matchup, arguably the hardest that Bo Nix has ever seen.
Yeah, to me, this isn't the hardest game that they could have played. I think playing the Texans would have been much harder in this round. I think eventually playing Jacksonville would have been harder for them, having just lost to them. And I think New England's a really tough team, as we've gone over on the show from my perspective. So I don't know that Buffalo's the hardest team. I think it's going to be a challenge. It should be a challenge. It's the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. But I think this game's more winnable than last year's game. So I don't want to even say this is the hardest game Bo Nix has ever had in his career. But I guess from the perspective of they had no chance to win that game in Buffalo, at least they have a chance to win this game, right? So, yeah, man, like from that perspective, yeah, this is the most challenging game that they have an actual chance to win. Going back to maybe that Packers game this year, which was an impressive win, but now looking in retrospect, the Packers won one game after that, I think. It was that, and it was that miracle ending against the Bears, basically, where they picked off Caleb, where he should have won the game, and then he comes back and does it two more times to the Packers and wins the game in that spot because he learned. So that Packers win turned out to be not that impressive. That Philadelphia win, I think, still impressive going into the defending champs and beating them. It took a lot from the 49ers to beat Philadelphia this weekend. And I know Philadelphia was ailing most of the season, but I still think that was an impressive win. And that's maybe the most impressive win of Bo Nix's career, with going into Buffalo last year in the regular season and beating the Bills. I think that was on a short week. So that's kind of the list. And you're right, Joey. If they find a way to beat Buffalo this weekend, there's a clear-cut number one best Bo Nix, Sean Payton era Broncos game, and there's no disputing it.
100%. 100%. We should move on because the Nuggets did what they keep doing. They keep winning. They keep winning without Nikola Jokic. Now, sure, last night it's against the Pelicans, but the way that it came to a finish, it tells the whole story. This backup unit led by Jamal Murray, who of course is a starter, and Peyton Watson have been lights out. They keep winning. They are now 5-3 without Nikola Jokic. This is something special happening here at Ball Arena.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think, again, so much credit should go to David Adelman because he's kept this unit together. I was listening to Tim Hardaway after the game last night, just talk with reverence for how this team has been coached, how guys have been listening and accepting of the things that David Adelman and the rest of the coaching staff has had to say about what they need to do. It's one of the most impressive stretches from the Denver Nuggets in this Nikola Jokic era, because what they have been without Nikola Jokic throughout this era has been so depressing. So the fact that they've even stayed 500, now above it, is fantastic. Joey, I wrote when Nikola Jokic went down, if the Denver Nuggets didn't win a single game, they would be okay. Think about that. That's where I set the bar of, if they don't win a single game, they're going to still find a way into the playoffs. They can go 0-15 without Nikola Jokic. I did the math on it. I proved it on denversports.com. These 5 extra wins are gravy. They haven't needed them. They're just gravy. And the fact that they're continuing to do this, and the fact that, maybe not tonight in Dallas because it's a back-to-back, but the fact that I feel good about them playing Washington and Charlotte this weekend, which I know are bad teams, but there's still NBA teams coming to your barn this weekend on a back-to-back. I'm sitting here going, they could go into this Lakers game on Tuesday at 7-4 in this stretch without Jokic. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's nothing less than shocking. And again, it's led by probably in the past 8 games, led by those 2 guys, Jamal Murray and Payton Watson. And I want to bring up, I said something to you the other day in the studio. I don't know if you remember it. You know where I'm going with this?
Here, I'm going to show you. And while you do this, while you bring this up, I'm going to show you a text message I sent last night. So bring this up.
I said, watching how Payton Watson is playing right now, you got to imagine that his ceiling is close to that of a Kevin Durant. And his dagger last night, can you say that wasn't Kevin Durant? Ask a turnaround fadeaway on the left elbow. Come on, a little bit.
Text message to Richie Carney last night. We better hope Joey doesn't see this.
Wait, I haven't seen what you're looking at, but I have stats written down. In the last 5 games, Payton Watson has 129 points, 15 3-point makes. He's shooting 62.5% from 3, 15 stocks. That's 15 total steals and blocks combined. Do you know that he is the first player to have those stats over a 5-game stretch since Kevin Durant in his 2013-2014 MVP season?
Yeah, that's the text message I sent to Richie Carney last night.
That's so funny because I just DM'd him those stats too earlier this morning.
We better hope Joey doesn't see this because the Joey victory lap is strong today. But
it feels good.
I still don't think that Payton Watson. I disagree still with the premise that Payton Watson's ceiling or best is akin to Kevin Durant. Just the shot creation and making skills is not to that level. It's really good. Like you saw last night, that shot he hit at the end of the game, that spinning midi, MPJ put on his IG story. He's like, ooh, that's tough, Payton. It was like, I'm down for it. And the reason why I've always compared Payton Watson to Kawhi Leonard at his absolute best of what he could be, not Kevin Durant, is you look early on in Payton's career, he had this little midi floating elbow jumper. And most people don't even realize Payton had this in his game because he wasn't allowed really to shoot mid-range shots. It was all threes and dunks for Payton and just wide open threes. And he would get into this late in the clock and he would hit it quite a bit. And I'm like, that's kind of like Kawhi Leonard. And then you look at the rest of his game and the steals and the blocks, and it's very similar to the rate stats, not the overall production, but the rate stats of where Kawhi Leonard was his first couple of years coming out of San Diego State for the Spurs. And you have to remember, Kawhi Leonard was a little bit older than Payton Watson and played more at San Diego State. So we're grading kind of on a curve of those two's careers. But you still look at it this year, and the rate stats are very similar for the age of where Payton Watson is as a whole player to where Kawhi Leonard is. And now over this extended stretch where the rate stats all of a sudden become the stats because he's getting a normal amount of minutes every night. And you're like, oh my God. Can I ask you a question, Joey? What's the most, and you just share your intrusive thoughts. I know that about you on this show with the Kevin Durant thing. What's your intrusive thought right now on Payton Watson? Like, do you have like just an intrusive thought you've been mulling through your head that you're like, I don't know if I really believe in this, but like, that's kind of what I've been feeling?
Oh, well, I've got a few. First of all, I don't think he should come out of the starting lineup when everybody's healthy. I think that he should come in over either Cam Johnson or Christian Brown. And if he's over Christian Brown, you run sort of a Rockets offense where they've got a really tall starting lineup. And then you go to the depth and maybe mix and match the, unit on the court with some height and some smaller guys. I love that idea. I don't know if it'll work. I doubt it'll be true. Payton Watson probably fits a bench player more, especially with his production that he's averaging right now. Another one is when you have to look at his piece of paper of what he's asking for this summer, pay whatever it is and try to offload Christian Braun. I don't care how it has to work. I know there's the poison pill deal in Christian Braun's contract. If you need to keep one of those players, 99 out of 100 times, it better be Payton Watson.
Well, I mean, do you believe that, or is that the intrusive thought there on CB?
The second one, I believe. The first one is more of like an intrusive thought, that could work.
Yeah. So
do you have one that you had for me? Did you have like an idea for me? Is it like how I was saying he's close to a Brandon Ingram too right now? Like if Brandon Ingram was consistent, Payton Watson's that guy right now.
We keep mentioning these names, Joey, Brandon Ingram, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. What do they have in common?
They're all tall stretch fours.
And they're all stars. My intrusive thought right now, and I don't believe this. I do not believe this, but it's been rattling in my brain the last few days. Are we like a year away from Payton Watson being an all-star? Like,
oh, yeah.
I don't really think so, but the thought continues to cross my mind, as well as, is there a number too high to pay Payton Watson? Which is an insane thing to say because I've done this reporting. Like, Calvin Booth was going to give him maybe about $20 million a year, which when I heard that last year felt insane. Now it's like, oh my God, what a deal that would be. So I don't know that the decision, in my opinion, Joey, is going to be between Christian Braun and Payton Watson moving forward. I think the decision at this point is going to be between Payton Watson and Cameron Johnson. Because you can offload that contract as an expiring, find a way. But the point of all of this movement is to stay under the second apron, which you're not going to be able to do if you give Payton Watson this extension, plus the CB and AG extensions kick in. The point of going under the second apron is flexibility. That's what we are told, right? The real reason they don't want to go under the second apron is because the tax bill climbs so high that the owners have to pay so much on their tax bill. But if it's under the guise of flexibility that the Nuggets stay under the second apron next year, it will be a shame because the whole reason to be flexible is so that you can assemble a great team. You are not getting a better talent because you are flexible than what you have already in Payton Watson. There is no point, in my opinion, other than greed to break up this Nuggets team for next season, so long as this season goes the way we think it's going to go. That means you're going deep into the second apron and keeping both Cam Johnson and Payton Watson. By the way, if Jonas Valanciunas wants to come back, you're re-signing him as well. You're picking up that option basically on that contract. You're coming together and agreeing. You're keeping CB around for that extension. You're rebuilding your bench in a meaningful way with guys like Tim Hardaway and Bruce Brown maybe staying or getting guys similar to that. So down the line, yeah, maybe after next year when Cam Johnson is a free agent, you let him walk. The reason, the way they get out of the Cam Johnson contract, by the way, is very simple. And most people don't realize this because the Nuggets can't trade a first-round pick. They can't. They're Stipien ruled out. But they can on draft night because they actually have their first-round pick this year. So if you traded Cam Johnson, a big salary and a very good player, as that asset plus the first round pick, could you move up into the top 15, top 10 of a generational NBA draft? And all of a sudden you get a cheap role player for the future? I don't know. Maybe. But this is the conversation that Ben Tenzer and Jonathan Wallace need to be having right now with making all sorts of contingency plans of how do we keep Payton, because we believe in him and he earns it and he deserves it. And we're not getting a better talent than him in at the small forward position. And what do we do to keep him? And at this trade deadline, do we need to get under this luxury tax number that we're $200,000 away from, that we still need to pay Spencer Jones and we still need to do all of this? So the next, 3 weeks for the Denver Nuggets are a fascinating proposition of not only how this season with real deal championship aspirations that only feel more real now that Nikola Jokic has been away, because we see what this team can be. Not only does it affect the rest of this season, but affects the Nuggets' future mightily going forward. A window that I said might end this year because of a guy like Payton Watson, it might be way more open than we believe this championship window.
It's there's so much to dive in. I love that whole spiel you went on there was amazing, and I really loved all the in-depth. That was incredible. There's so much to look at with this Payton Watson contract, and especially how it affects this team's future. It's funny, honestly, the bottom line, you know what I took from a lot of that? I'm praying for a Rams Super Bowl. Let's get some more money in the Crockies' pockets, and maybe they'll feel a little bit better at shelling something out.
On Saturday, I'm sitting here rooting for the Rams, and I have a friend over, and they're like, "Why are you rooting for the Rams?" I'm like, "Somebody's got to be able to fund Nikola Jokic's contract," which, by the way, is the biggest question of this offseason after having said all of that. So I won't be rooting for the Rams this weekend, just in all honesty. People know why.
Oh, yeah. Gotta bear down.
Yeah. But, you know, it makes a lot of sense. And maybe the marketing budget for the Rapids and their rebrand doesn't go as high because the Nuggets salary continues to go through the roof. But hey, man, as the Nuggets guy, I'm willing to make the sacrifice on the Raptors.
Yeah. Yep. No, 110%. All right, Jake, before we finish it up, I just got to shout out Roy. You didn't happen to be in Sioux Falls, were you recently, Jake? Because Roy in our comments said, "Hey there, Jake and Joey. I swear to God, Jake, I thought I saw you at a gas station here in Sioux Falls. Wonder if you have a twin. LOL. You got a twin out there in Sioux Falls you don't know about?
Take me out to Sioux Falls. Make it Chat Falls. Come on, let's have a day.
All right, Jake, thank you so much for joining. Everybody else, thank you for joining and watching. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.